I'm sure most of you would agree, airlines today have become pretty bland, at least in economy. While there are still of course differences between a mainline or budget carrier, I think for the most part it takes a weirdo like me to actually spot the differences between, say, Alaska and Delta. Well, I do for some reason love doing that. I mean, look at this channel. I think the most interesting flights in the US come from the Essential Air Service. Airlines flying under this program tend to operate older and smaller aircraft you just don't see the normal airlines touch anymore, just like my previous reviews on Denver Air Connection, which are some of my favorites. That is why today I want to check out Contour Airlines, one of America's newest airlines, and one I hadn't even heard of till I ran across one in Oakland recently. So I hope you will join me on a round trip from Phoenix to the tiny desert town of Page aboard Contour's Embraer 135. Welcome to Phoenix. We are currently taking the Sky Train from Sky Harbor's Terminal 4, where I just arrived aboard an early morning American flight, to Terminal 3, where basically every airline besides American and Southwest are based. This includes Denver Air Connection, and in case this feels familiar to my few returning viewers, this is pretty much exactly where the last Dec video started. Even though I'm already in the airport, we will need to go through security again, since for some reason the terminals here are not connected past security, one of the only downsides of this airport for me. Even though Contour has online check-in, I figure let's go take a look at their check-in desk while we're here anyway. Contour's single check-in desk is located right next to the United check-in area, an airline Contour shares an interline agreement with, meaning you can book a United and Contour flight as one itinerary. They also work with Alaska and American Airlines, although American is a little annoying at this airport with the need to transfer terminals and redo security. The check-in agent showed up about 2 hours prior to departure. Even though I showed up even earlier than that, I wasn't actually the first to check in. The passenger ahead of me ended up chatting with the check-in agent for around 10 minutes like they knew each other personally. It wouldn't be very surprising if they did, since this flight is the only real way in and out of Page besides a multi-hour drive through remote desert. While we are here, if you want to check in any bags with Contour, unlike most airlines these days, the first checked bag is free, alongside a free carry-on and personal item. Time to head to security. At least it looks like it will be quick today. I was here a few weeks ago, and the security line stretched all the way down the check-in area. That was much better. It only took a few minutes. With an hour and a half left till our flight, I decided to do some plane spotting. First heading to the opposite end of the terminal from our gate, I found this Air Canada Dreamliner still in their old toothpaste livery, and then United's second A321neo on just its first week of service. Yes, these aircraft were introduced in December 2023, and yes, this footage is that old. I have quite the backlog of videos to work through, but at least that means they won't stop anytime soon, so make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss more reviews like this. On the other end of the terminal, where we'll be departing from, you can get a great view of some Arizona National Guard KC-135s, which is always one of Phoenix's highlights to me. And here's our gate, F6. I'm a big fan of this terminal, although as returning viewers may know, you can't go wrong with a high ceiling and lots of natural light for me. There are also some good options for food. I'd totally grab some Shake Shack if I had the time, which for some reason I've only really ever had in airports. Anyway, it looks like our aircraft is arriving. This is November 16502, a 1999 built ERJ-135ER. It was originally delivered to Continental Express and flew for them until 2008. It then sat in the Mojave Desert in storage for 9 years before Contour rescued it in 2017. It is now one of 10 ERJ-135s in Contour's fleet, which serves alongside 8 of the longer ERJ-140s, 3 ERJ-145s, and 10 CRJ-200s. Despite the size differences of these aircraft, they are all equipped with just 30 seats thanks to a bit of a legal loophole. Normal airlines, which sell seats on scheduled flights, operate under Part 121 rules, which come with high maintenance, pilot, and operation standards. Charter airlines, which can only sell on-demand flights, operate under Part 135 rules, with lighter standards so smaller operations can run without massive overhead. Contour exists in a weird middle ground between these two rules. They are a Part 380 public charter operator. Essentially, Contour Airlines is just a brand. They charter these aircraft from their parent company, Contour Aviation, who actually owns all the planes and hires the pilots, meaning this scheduled for the public flight is technically being chartered, allowing it to operate under Part 135 rules. Part 135 only applies to aircraft with 30 seats or less though, which is why Contour would rather take seats out of their planes than have to go into Part 121 operations. All of this is somewhat controversial, and is actually under review by the FAA, although I think most of the controversy comes from JSX, since it's this same loophole that allows them to operate public flights out of private hangars. With that endless info dump out of the way, it's time to board. The 30 seats aboard this aircraft are arranged into 10 rows of 2-1 seating. The overhead bins are very small, so I assume most large carry-ons are gate-checked. And here's our first seat for today, 4A. The first thing you notice when you sit down is the legroom. This aircraft has 36 inches of pitch thanks to the 7 removed seats. Although we know this is for the benefit of the airline, not us, I certainly can't complain. Otherwise, the seat comes with your standard air vent and reading light, a nice big tray table that could maybe use a little bit of cleaning, and a seat back pocket with a sick bag and safety card. While there is no seatback screen, or Wi-Fi, or any type of in-flight entertainment on board, I think the view will do just fine for our 40-minute flight today. For those wanting an engine view, Contour allows you to pick your seats for free, so we will get that on the way back from Paige.
Passengers seated in the exit row must be willing and able to visually locate the exit here and understand oral instructions. Open the exit and direct others to the exit without injuring themselves or blocking the exit. Children under the age of 15 may not sit in the exit row.
This flight seems to be pretty empty. There are only 9 other passengers with us today, which is not surprising since this airline is an essential air service operator. I know I have already used that term a few times, so I should probably explain it. Essential Air Service is a subsidy program that ensures smaller isolated communities, such as Paige, which don't have enough demand for regular airline service, keep affordable, regularly scheduled flights. Many Essential Air Service contracts only call for small commuter planes with 30 seats or less, which the normal airlines don't consider worth the trouble, so this has kept a niche open for a few Essential Air Service-focused airlines like this to stay afloat. Since Contour will go wherever the contracts take them, they have a pretty chaotic route map, with bases in Phoenix, Denver, Dallas, Chicago, Nashville, Charlotte, and Washington. This route has 2 round-trip flights a day, with a fixed price of $80 per person one way to ensure it remains affordable for the residents of Paige.
The door located at the front end of the aisle is a flight deck door. No unauthorized persons should make any attempts to enter the flight deck at any time.
And with that, it's time to get going. If you want to skip the takeoff, just head straight to the time above. Either way, I'll be back with you once we're in the air. I always enjoy the views around Phoenix. I love the look of deserts, even if I wouldn't want to be stuck in one. I'm also always amazed with how the city just ends in such a clean line. No slow petering off with lower densities, just suburbs and desert. Not long after we hit cruise, the single flight attendant aboard this aircraft started handing out snacks. You have the option between the sweet and savory snack mix and a Biscoff cookie. I went for the snack mix, planning to get the cookie on the way back. A pretty generous drink service was offered, with a full selection of sodas, although I just went for some water on this leg. Once again, the views out here are just beautiful. As we approach Page, it should get even better since we'll pass the Grand Canyon. This aircraft, the ERJ-135, is the smallest member of the ERJ family. ERJs represent an important milestone in the rise of Embraer as a manufacturer. They were the company's first jet airliners. They were originally envisioned as a straight-wing jet conversion of the Embraer 120, before receiving new wings and finally having the engines moved to their current position. The ERJ family would become the first big hit for Embraer, gaining more lifetime orders than their previous two commercial offerings combined. The longest member of the ERJ family, the ERJ-145, actually came first, with the shorter ERJ-135 and 140 coming a few years after. Embraer would build on that success with the even more impactful E-Jet family, which has come to define US regional flying today. In its heyday, the ERJ family was flown all across the US and Europe by most major carriers, and the ERJ-145 remains in service with United Express and American Eagle today. Despite that though, I've barely ever flown on them since they now operate exclusively on the eastern side of the country. I flew on them a few times as a kid, but I don't remember that at all. The ERJ-135 specifically is now very rare in the US, only being flown by Contour and JSX, making this flight even more unique to me. And it looks like we are getting past the Grand Canyon. Isn't that just stunning? That also means we are approaching Page, so it's time to get ready for landing, which I'll leave you to enjoy. But don't worry, the video isn't over yet, we still have the flight back to Phoenix with a great surprise at the end, so stick around. Welcome to Page. Unlike most of the towns in this area, whose history stretches back to the mid-1800s or earlier, Page got its start as a company town for the construction of the nearby Glen Canyon Dam in the 50s. Today, it functions as the primary tourism center for the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, which I really wish I had the time to visit on this trip. This airport received its first airline service in the 60s, with Bonanza F-27s, which it would see continuously till the 80s. That was replaced by a young SkyWest Airlines using Piper Navajos, which would eventually be upgraded to Metroliners. In the early 2000s, SkyWest was replaced with ESA giant Great Lakes Airlines, who served this airport with Beechcraft 1900s until their downfall in 2018, mainly caused by the introduction of far stricter pilot qualifications under Part 121 rules, the rules Contour now avoids with its charter loophole. Since then, Contour has served this airport through Phoenix. The airport is also actually served by Scenic Airlines, but their flights only carry tourists as part of a package expedition, so it doesn't really count.
it's been for the last, like...
It's not. Have a nice day.
Now, I would have loved to give you a look through this tiny terminal, but at airports like this, security opens up only as boarding is about to begin. It seems Contour runs a very efficient operation, because security was already open as I walked through the door, so I just hopped straight in line. Once I got through security, one of the TSA agents noticed I had a camera and told me no filming inside the waiting area, which I am of course not gonna argue with. So here we are, already back at it. I gotta take this moment to point out, I really love this livery. The blues are beautiful, and the logo mix isn't great. It definitely catches my eye anytime I run across one of these planes, and I could never blame such a small airline for running around with planes like this, so I appreciate the effort. Now for this flight, we will head to the back of the plane to hopefully get a nice view of the engine. This aircraft's lavatory is placed at the very back of the aircraft, so maybe we will check that out if the ride is smooth enough. And here's our seat, 10A. The seat is the same as last time, with the same very generous legroom, and once again, this flight is pretty packed, especially this far back.
Alright, good afternoon folks from the flight deck. Welcome aboard Contour Airlines Flight 3301, service to Phoenix. The flight time today is going to be about 45 minutes en route. We're going to be cruising at an altitude of 26,000 feet. Should be mostly smooth all the way there.
The freight train table and personal items are stowed. After I've demonstrated the operation of the oxygen mask and the seatbelt, the cabin lights will be turned off. Controls for your airman, flight attendant call buttons are above grade.
Once again, I'll let you enjoy this absolutely gorgeous takeoff without having to listen to me, and meet you back in the air. Just like last time, the snacks arrived in minutes. As promised, this time I went for the Biscoff. Unlike last time though, we hit a few bumps and the seatbelt sign had to come on for a bit, delaying the drink service. I took the time to take a look through the safety card, something I always enjoy on rare aircraft like this. Some of you may notice the safety card says EMB-135 instead of what I have been using the whole time, ERJ. This is mostly a technical distinction, but it reveals a bit of interesting history. Before the release of this aircraft, Embraer was known for their turboprop EMB-110 and 120, EMB being a shortening of the company's full name at the time, which I don't dare try and pronounce. By the way, if you were wondering where Embraer comes from, here you go. Anyway, when the ERJ-145's development began, it was called the EMB-145 and was registered as such. This is why the safety card still says EMB today. During the introduction of this aircraft to the public though, Embraer wanted a small rebrand to bring their image away from turboprops and into jets, which passengers of course prefer. So they chose ERJ, meaning Embraer Regional Jet, since the CRJs, or Canadair regional jets, had recently completely revolutionized regional jet travel. About 20 minutes into the flight, the drinks arrived, and this time I went for some ginger ale. I am honestly impressed to get a full set of soda options on just a 40-minute flight. With the flight coming to an end and with a lucky few minutes with the seatbelt sign off, let's see what the lavatory looks like. Since it can take up the whole width of the fuselage, it is a lot more spacious than I would expect for a plane like this. It is honestly more comfortable than some lavatories on wide bodies. Well, except for the head clearance. This is the type of plane that requires someone as tall as me to crouch down a little bit. And it looks like we are back above civilization, so I'll see you back in Phoenix. Make sure to stick around to the end, I promise it's worth it. Or, I like to think so anyway. What a cool little airline this is. I think this airline perfectly demonstrates that regional flying does not need to be uncomfortable. Oh, hold on one second.
Are you going to put it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Can you send it to us?
Yeah, what's it going to be called?
It'll be a few months, probably.
Yeah.
I got a big backlog of these, but
yeah.
Yeah, a few months, no problem. So, this is the first and only time I've had this happen while filming. The crew noticed my camera and wanted to talk to me.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if either of you two somehow are still paying attention after all this time, sorry about the delay, but hey, we're here now. Anyway, I got to sit in the cockpit and talk to the pilots for a bit since they had plenty of time to kill before their next flight.
Which actually produces AC power, which goes off to certain equipment that uses AC power, but then it goes to there's 5 different TRUs, or like transform rectifier units, that turn it back into direct current, and it goes to different equipment that requires direct current. It's crazy.
Sounds convoluted.
This is...
They even showed me some of the emergency systems.
Takeoff. Brake.
Nice.
There you go.
I pressed that button one time sitting here, the button got stuck, and then it just...
You kept going?
Yeah.
Oh no.
It was kind of something.
Fire time. Oh yeah, there you go.
I also thought it was really cool to get to see the underside of the airport so close up. Once again, if either of you two are still around, thank you.
They have an air-driven generator. If you're like a total electrical failure, then like this little thing comes out and it has like a little prop on it, so if you go a certain speed, it spins it.
Well, this really was a memorable flight for me, and I'm glad you were able to join. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, I've got tons of other reviews already up for you to check out, and plenty more on the way. I've got an American flight home to catch, so I'll be leaving you here, right where we started the day, and I hope to fly with you again soon.